Hello, 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 and thank you once again for tuning into my podcast, Outside the Box, where I, Stephanie K, aka Sage the Coach, aims to help people see that God is always bigger than the boxes that we typically put him in a variety of different scenarios, questions, comments, things like that. Sometimes I do book reviews, which actually next week I'm going to do a book review about what is the name of that book? I'll get it really quickly. One second. It's called Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus. And so I just recently read that book. I was really inspired by it. And so I want to do a review over that. And I'll be doing that next week. So make sure you tune in for that. So, so I wanted to talk about part two, Battle of the Sexes. I left off last week talking about a lot of the problems that I see between men and women are very, very fundamental. And sometimes men like to point at specific problems for women, and women like to point at specific problem for men. But the problem that we both have are the same, and it goes for everybody. It's not a male problem or a female problem. It's the same problem. But before I get into that and kind of do a little bit of a recap of what I talked about last week, I want to remind you also, please like, follow, share, subscribe my content. You can find me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and X, which is called Twitter. I said that fast. Usually I'm like, X, like I'm not a social media fan. Like, it's some stuff I like about social media, but for the most part, I really try to stay off of it as much as possible. It is a time guzzler. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of another word that just inhabits the something. I don't want to say leech. It just sucks it out. Like, like that's how I see social media. Like, you can be on social media and plan to be on there for 5 or 10 minutes. The next thing you know, you're on there for 2 hours. And I hate it. I feel like my life is limited. My time is precious. I really don't want to spend my time, wasting my time. I could be doing something else much more valuable. And me personally, I'd rather interact with people in person than social media. Like, social media gives a very false sense of connection and relationship, and I don't like it, but that's me. And now I'm getting off topic, so let me get back on topic. It still goes back to relationships, so yeah. So anyway, make sure you like, follow, share on social media. You can also watch me on Roku, Google Play Store, and the Apple Store through a app called the Entertainment Theater. It's an app for independent creators and influencers. And so if you're interested in getting your own content on there, you can contact the owner. And if you want to watch me and support a up and coming, leader in the industry, like the guy who owns it is amazing, and he really has a heart for the little guy and like helping people kind of, I don't want to go into the whole philosophy because I will, but I really like him a lot. He has a great vision. And when people with great vision, what you need to do, if you don't, because a lot of people don't have great vision. Some people do. And the ones that do need support. So you want to support what he's doing. It's a minority-owned business. He has great vision, and he's trying to help us people who the little people, get our names and what we're doing out there as well. So anyway, not to go too far into that, but make sure you download that. Again, it's the Entertainment Theater app. And you can find it on Google Play Store, Apple Play Store, and the Roku. And you can watch me on there as well. And so is there anything else that I need to discuss? Okay, I'm done with my church announcements. So I was talking about Battle of the Sexes. And I was saying how, you see, especially on social media, a lot of the mentality of how men and women see each other, kind of get depicted in videos, sometimes in funny ways, discussions and stuff like that. A lot of it kind of boils down to men pointing the finger at women about them not being the right women, and women, the problems that they have with women, and then women doing the same thing to men. And it's really sad. I was saying last week, it's really sad when I see that, because I know that that's not the relationship God created us to have. And we're so far from that. And that it contributes to a lot of problems that I think a lot of times people don't realize is contributes to larger problems, not only within our families and our children, but in society and our culture in general. And so we really need to get to the bottom of these things if we actually want to see change. A lot of people don't want to get to the bottom of it. And because they don't want to get to the bottom of it, the problem just perpetuates. And when something perpetuates unaddressed, what happens? It gets worse. It doesn't just stay the same, it gets worse. And now, we're in a society now where marriage is losing its value. People are not getting married. Divorce rate is high. A lot of people growing up in single parent homes, and it's just getting worse. But if you want to be one of those people that break the cycle, then I'm giving some tips and some insights on what you need to do as a person if you do not want to perpetuate the cycle and you want to be one of those who breaks the cycle. If not, and I know, like, for you, it might not be like, I can't break the cycle. I can't change society, my one self. Know what's going on in my throat here. I can't, make these huge changes in society, but you can break it for your own family and for your own lineage. And you never know how that will end up impacting people in the long run, because a lot of the people that we hear about today that did great things, it did not start off huge. It was a small thing that just grew and grew and grew. And now it's a cultural practice, or it's a holiday, or got turned into a law or something like that. So don't think that you might not be able to see the change in your lifetime, but that does not mean you can't, again, break the cycle within your own family and never know how it's going to unfold generations from now. So that's really important. um and so here are some things that you should do. So one of the things that I was saying is that you need to check yourself first, because we have a lot of misconceptions, we have a lot of trauma, we have a lot of baggage, we have a lot of issues that comes when it comes to ourselves, that we're simply reflecting into our relationships. This is a big, 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 big problem. I say this a lot of the time, that the way you um, act in a relationship, or how you choose to behave in a relationship, says more about you than it says about the other person. I mean, you see people who make it seem like, you made me do this, or I wouldn't do this if you didn't do this. No, stop making excuses, because who you are, there's only, let me try to explain this a little bit. So when you are in a situation and you have to respond to the situation, there's only a handful of responses that is going to be available to you based on you. So, for example, some people, when they might respond to a situation, might say, well, I'm going to kill the person. That is their little bowl of suggested responses. Okay, do I react with violence? Do I do this? Do I do that? Do I do this? And those your minimal amount of response, because nobody has all the responses, because your responses are based on your experiences, your personality, your experiences, your personality, your knowledge, stuff like that. So because those things are limited and nobody experiences everything or has every personality, your options of how you behave is limited to that. And so how you choose to respond says more about you. You cannot blame your responses on other people, because some people would never consider doing that. Some people would never consider slapping a man or a woman because they made them upset. Somebody might not ever consider cheating because somebody else cheated on them. Somebody else might not consider, you know, going flying off the handle, whatever, you lying, cheating, stealing, whatever it is. Some people would not do those things. They would not even be options for them. The fact that there's options, they are options for you, says something about you. And you need to figure out what that is. Why are you responding that way? Why are you reacting that way? Why do you think that way? Why do you feel that way? When you deal with that, and you learn to gain some control over your responses, because a lot of these responses are automatic, of course, and it's in our subconscious mind, again, because they're accumulation of our experiences our trauma, our knowledge, and things like that. So it happens subconsciously. But when you think about it, when you examine it, when you dissect it, you bring it from your storage container of subconscious responses, you bring it out, and then once it's out, that's where you can make changes to it. When it's in your conscious mind, you could look at it, you could observe it, you can say, okay, I don't like this, I don't like that. Oh, that came from that. Oh, that's not right. I don't like that. And then you can make changes to it. But if as long as in your subconscious mind and you're just responding, you're not going to make any changes to it, and you're going to keep doing the same thing, even if it is damaging you. So, so it says more about you, and you have to figure out what is that thing saying, why is it saying it, and if that's the type of person I want to be. If you like it and you want to stay that way, then we have free will. That's your choice. You can do that. But if you want to grow as a human being and not just respond to things and actually get to a specific goal of having a healthy relationship, self-examination is required. And so we need to examine ourselves. And so I talked about that, and I just talked about it a little bit more now. And something that I will add to that is that it's very easy for people to blame their behavior on other people, but really it's a distraction from yourself. And I mean, even if you go back to the Garden of Eden, the main thing that the devil does underneath his deception is distraction. He's just constantly trying to all distract us all from what's most important and who we are. Who we are, who God is, what's most important. He is constantly trying to distract us from that. And one of the ways that he distracts us from that is, one of the ways that he distracts us from that is through deception. He just tries to trick you and lie to you and tell you, oh, don't look over here, look over there. It's like magicians, how they have their little tricks and they're doing one thing over here, but they're trying to make you look over here. Whether that's what the devil's doing. He's doing it all to all of us all the time, every day. It's annoying. And I say, that is not just annoying. Sometimes it's infuriating. And I say one of the reasons why I will be happy to leave this earth and go to heaven is to finally get away from the devil. Like, it's not funny. It's very true. It's a mess. It's like you have this vicious, unrelenting enemy that you did nothing to, that is constantly after you all the time in your mind. Like even people have a certain boundary that they can get into your mind. The devil too, don't get me wrong, but he can just manipulate you in ways in your mind that sometimes people can't even do, So anyway, I'm not to go too much into that, but we need to understand that a lot of these things that we have when it comes to men and women, and we're saying men should be like this and women should be like this and men ain't doing this and men ain't doing that and pointing the finger at each other, and it's a back and forth and back and forth. It's just a distraction. It's just a distraction from who we are, who the other person is, and what we're actually supposed to be doing together on this earth. Because God created us to be partners. He did not create us to be fighting each other. He created us to work together. And if you watch my last show last week on Battle of the Sexes Part 1, I talked about a spoon and fork analogy. You can go back to get all the details of that. But we were put here to work together. We're not in competition with each other. We're not enemies. And when we start seeing each other that way, the distraction and the deception is working. And don't get me wrong, it can be very convincing. If you get hurt by this woman, this guy, this man, this way, and every time you turn around, you're seeing sometimes a repeated behavior in the opposite sex, it becomes very easy to conclude that you're right, but you're not. Because I don't care how many people you've seen, you haven't seen all of them. And people are unique. People are different. People have different experiences. And when you start lumping people together and judging them, you will always go wrong with that. Always. So we don't want to fall for the distraction. We want to say, okay, God, why did you put us here? Because when we don't do things the way that God has us created them to be, we don't find the happiness and the fulfillment and stuff that we were meant to have. It just, everything gets out of whack. And everybody's trying to find happiness in these different ways, because a lot of times men are complaining about women and women are complaining about men because they have been disappointed, because they have been hurt, because they want to be happy, because they want love, because they do want a healthy relationship. But if you get caught up in that, I'm messing up now. So, but so if you want to actually reach the thing that deep down in your heart that you want, the thing that deep down you were designed to have, is that happiness, that companionship, that closeness. We have to try to do things God's way. We have to. There's no other choice. You have people who do things God's way that don't know God, and it still works. You still have those principles of healthy relationship. Those things came from God. If you apply them, they will work whether you know God or not. But we have to try our best to do things God's way if we want to achieve the outcome that all of our hearts and minds somehow promise us. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know. That's a whole different conversation. Yeah. So God put us here. God put us here to work together to create his image on the earth. His image. So what is his image? His image is love, peace, patience, kindness. You know, I'll even say progress. Like his image is all the good things that are healthy and that are good. And then we create his image on the earth. But why? To pour that into other people. Like we're not here for ourselves. We're here to create an image and then show other people how to create an image. Then those people create an image and then they show other people how to create an image. Then the image of God is constantly perpetuated throughout time. And it just leads to happiness, healthiness, fulfillment, you know, and all those great, wonderful things that we all are chasing anyway. Right? Am I right? Like, is that not what we're chasing? If you're not chasing it, then you're the definition of dysfunctional because you're messed up. And how did you get that way? Because that's not our natural nature. But you can also be chasing the right things in the wrong way too. So yeah. But anyway, again, a whole different conversation. So yeah, we're put here for a purpose, to learn, to grow from each other, to help each other become more of the image of God, to help us understand the mind of God, because in order to become his image, we need to understand him, and that's how we grow. We understand him more, and then once we understand him, we can would replicate his image better. And so that's why we're here. We're not here to be pointing the finger at and talking about and disliking and arguing and fighting with each other. Like it is the greatest illusion to think that that's important, because it's not. So we need to turn the mirror around and stop pointing fingers at other people and look at ourselves, figure out what's going on with ourselves, which I talked about in the first video. And the second one that I wanted to go into, which I didn't go into very much on the last one, is we need to find out why God created men and women. Because again, if we are partners, what are we partnering with? What are we partnering for? What do we bring to the partnership? What is our strengths in the partnership? That when we understand ourselves better, we understand how to partner with our partner better. Because we know where our line is, where our strength is, where our weakness is, where we need help, where we don't need help, where we need to talk and where we need to be quiet, where we need to lean and where we need to be leaned upon. Because we're all on this journey trying to figure out how to become our portion of the image of God. And so it's a tedious journey. It's a hard journey. It's a long journey. And we need partnership, friendship, companionship, relationship along the way. And so once we figure out where we are on that journey, it's the best that we can, because you're not going to know it completely, because part of the journey is discovering. Then we're better able to partner with people better when we know those things about ourselves. So stop looking at what men are doing wrong. Men, stop looking at what women are doing wrong, because I said this in the last video. A man cannot tell a woman how to be a woman because he didn't create a woman. There are things about a woman he has absolutely no idea about. So while you're telling a woman how to be a woman, you're glossing over some very important factors. A woman cannot tell a man how to be a man because she didn't make a man. You don't know what it means to be a man. You don't know what it feels like to be a man. You don't know those, I'm trying to think of the right word. You don't know those instincts that a man has, that was put there by God, that he gave to him to complete his portion of being the image of God. And then you're trying to tell him how to be a man based on your portion. It doesn't work, because we didn't make each other. We have to go back to the source. Who made the source? You can never understand fully how something works unless you have the inventor there to tell you how, okay, what does this button do? Okay, what does that do? You may fiddle around with the buttons and figure out some stuff, but you still won't know completely what it's capable of, just like my phone. I've been having my phone for at least 2 or 3 years now, and I can guarantee you I don't even know probably 60% of what it can do. I know the stuff that I want to use it for, and I play around, I mess with it. And if I get real desperate, I'll go look it up because I want to know what it does. But for the most part, I stay within this realm of what works for me. And then if you know, and that's fine. But I know my phone can do a lot of other stuff that I don't know about. But the phone is not bothered by that because it's not sentient, it's not conscious. But you trying to make a person fit within your use and your understanding of their usage when they have so much more potential and was created for so much more is, for lack of a better word, arrogance and ignorance. So you have to figure out why God made men the way he made men. Why are men so logical? What did God put him for? How put them here for? Why? In our partnership, what role do they play in our lives? And the same thing for men. Because like I said before in the part 1, you have a lot of men and people who simply reflect themselves on other people. So women who are more emotional, typically, not all the time, tend to want men to be more emotional like them. Men who are more logical tend to want women to be more logical like them. We were not made the same for a reason. So instead of just trying to make the other person kind of mimic what you want them to mimic, the part of you that you like, the way that you communicate, what speaks to you, what's important to you, you need to understand why God made them the way that they made them. Now, don't get me wrong, that doesn't give a person the right to abuse you or mistreat you or neglect you or anything like that. But I'm saying if we take a step back and try to understand why God created men and women the way he made them, it will help us understand how we were intended to partner with each other. And it help us to see the value in each other's partnership. And not always feel like, well, you need to do it like I do it. Or you need to stop, like men always make it seem like women talk too much. Which I will tell you is not true. I've seen a lot of men who talk a lot. Like it's funny. It's like, oh my goodness, like you really need to be quiet. But you have this overarching stereotype that women talk too much, when I have seen way more men who talk too much than I've seen women, like honestly. And maybe it stands out to me more because they are men and I don't really expect men to do that. But the fact is that it's not true. And so men will have this idea that women talk too much, so they want women to be quiet like them. But women are wired to be communicators for the purpose of the fruitfulness of the relationship. So if she's quiet all the time like you guys are not going to grow to become the image of God like he created us to be in the earth. You see what I'm saying? So how are you going to dismiss that side of her when it's such an essential part of you guys' growth together? The goal is God. It's not man, it's not woman. The goal is God and the agenda that he laid out. And communication is an essential part of that journey. But you see, if you don't understand that and you just looking at what from your little narrow perspective that you don't want to hear something and the woman is talking too much, you're missing a much larger piece of the puzzle, which means you're not going to make it to your destination. The destination that was established by God, not you. And so we need to understand why God made each sex the way that he made it. And then that doesn't even get into personality. People are different. So God made women a specific way, or lean to a specific nature, but women still have individual personalities that add some variation to that. Men the same. So when you start to try to understand more instead of pointing fingers and saying what you don't like and what you don't want to deal with, blah, 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 you help the other person grow. We help each other grow. You grow in knowledge, you grow in compassion, you grow in love, like you grow in so many areas. But a lot of the times you don't see this. You don't see this when it comes to men and women communication. They're so busy pointing the finger at each other, telling the other person what they're doing wrong and why they should do this and why they should do that and why should they do that. Nobody's taking time to actually get on the real agenda of growing together. And it's sad because we suffer, our children suffer, our family suffer, community suffer, the world suffers When men and women cannot do the single most important job that God gave us to be fruitful, multiply, you can't do that separately. You have to do it together. It's a partnership. So, um, so yeah, so it's you have to. God understands the nature of men. He understands the nature of women. He knows exactly how we fit together. He knows it perfectly, completely, totally. No hiccups, no mistakes. He knows it. So we need to go to God and figure out, okay, God, how do I fit? Where do I fit? Help me to clean off these jacked up pieces of my edges that got messed up because of life and hurt and trauma so that I can fit with the partner that you created me to have correctly so that we can be fruitful and multiply and project your image and reflect your image in the earth. How do I let me understand my nature? Because that's the best thing that you can do. And a lot of times, even when it comes to women, we are so wired to like please men and stuff like that, that we forget totally about ourselves and our own nature, and that we need to focus on ourselves. You don't need to focus. And if you have a notebook right now, if you're taking notes, which I know you're not, but I'm just saying this is important. If you have something to write this down right now, write this down. You do not learn the ins and outs of men by focusing on men. You don't. You focus on yourself. You grow yourself. You understand yourself. You understand who you are, who God created you to be, where you fit. What is your journey, your own specific journey? What stuff you need to clean up, what stuff you need to work on. Because Adam and Eve in the garden did not understand each other, did not fit together well before the fall like they did, because they completely understood the other person. They did not. They were connected to God, and they let God tell them who they were, and they lived by who God told them who they were. And when they lived by who God told them who they were individually, they automatically fit together perfectly. You see? But too many times, and I talked about this in another video, we do things backwards since the fall. That's what the fall is. It's a reversal of nature. It's a reversal of order. We're doing things backwards. We let the world tell us about God instead of letting God tell us about the world. We look at men and women and their mistakes, and we think that should tell us who they are instead of letting God tell us who they are. We do stuff from the bottom up instead of from the top down. So the source is always God. Go back to God. Ask God about me. Ask God about him. Ask God about her. Ask God about my children. Ask God about my boss. Like, God understands all these people way better than you do. And like a strategic genius, he knows all the little tiny pieces that need to go together to get the specific outcome of fruitfulness. That's what life is. When God said, I came that they might have life, life is fruitfulness. So he knows how to get the specific outcome of fruitfulness, not just for you, but for everybody involved. We can't see that. We can't know that. He did not create us to see that and know that, because it's too much knowledge. Like, we might as well be gods if we have that type of knowledge where we see every little bit. We don't need God then, because we have it all. But we need God because we don't have it all, and he has the information that we need, and the information that he needs, he uses it to help develop a relationship with us. And again, fruitfulness is the result, your own fruitfulness. So you don't see all of that. You don't see that your girlfriend is acting stupid because she was abused when she was a kid, or told when she was a kid that she was dumb. And you're so busy pointing at her flaws that you're not seeing the underlying problem so that it can be fixed, so that she can be better. Now don't get me wrong, that doesn't make you responsible for solving other people's problems, because you're not, but you can point it out. You can point it out. And the difference between, because I know you might say, well, you were talking in the beginning about pointing out each other's mistakes, and now you're saying point out each other's mistakes. You're spot on. You're right. I did say that, but there's a difference when you're pointing something out in love, and you're pointing something out as a trauma response, and when you're pointing something out out of bitterness, and when you're pointing something out out of unhappiness and disappointment and frustration and blah, blah, blah. But you actually being sincerely concerned about the welfare and the growth of the other person, and you point something out to them in love, it's 20, 1,000, a cajillion times more powerful than pointing things out and all those other things. So yes, you can point out a person's flaws, but when you do it in love, it's not your focus. It's your focus is not their flaws. You focus the flaw just to change it, not to create their whole personality around it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean, like I said, this is relationship coaching stuff. And I don't know if I mentioned in the beginning. I usually try to mention it, but I am a multi-certified life and relationship coach. Um, and if you need some help beyond this, because this stuff is not easy. Like, it's not easy. Even me as a life coach, you would think, I mean, a relationship coach, you would think, oh, all your relationships must be great. No. But they're not great because relationships take two people. It's not all on you to make the relationship great. You can say a lot, but people have their choices. People can do what they want to do. People can say what they want to say, and it does. And you have to love them and respect them enough to allow them their choice. Whole different conversation, you know. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap up here today because I'm coming to my 30 minutes. A lot of times when I talk about stuff, and this is the case for a lot of stuff, unless it's just really, really stupid, this conversation can go on in many different, I mean, on and on and on in many different ways and stuff like that. And so yeah, this is a really important. It needs to be talked about. If you want to go to a little bit deeper person for yourself, again, like I said, send me your questions, send me your comments. I do offer one free session of coaching session with myself, and I am also starting a new course. This is not, I don't want to say a new course, a new session of this course, because I've done this course many times already, called Improving Personal Relationships. You can apply this class to your marital relationships, your relationship with your boss, your children, your friends, your family, anything like that. So Improving Personal Relationships, I believe that course starts on November 30th. I need to double check that. I will post about it as we get closer to the end of as we get closer to the date of it starting. But if you want more information, you want to get deeper into this and figure out how to actually improve your personal relationships, because relationships are such an important part of our quality of life. It's important to work on them. It's actually, you cannot work on them without working on yourself, which is growth is the main thing. Like, all these things are intertwined. Like, it's kind of amazing sometimes. But so anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up today. Thank you for tuning in. Come back next week, 12:30 p.m., when I will talk about a book that I read called Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus. Really, really good book. So anyway, yeah, so that's it. You guys make sure you follow me, like, share, subscribe. You can also schedule reminders on YouTube for my next shows. Is there anything else that I'm missing? I think that's it. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and talk to you soon next week, 12:30 p.m. All right. Bye.